Hi guys, it's Silverwolf. Ignore the glare, that's my TV in front of me. Today's video, well, the video in general that you're gonna watch wasn't filmed today. This was filmed ages ago. This is just the intro that I kept forgetting to record. Today's video is a sort of challenge video. This video will be part of my playlist for, I haven't actually decided on a name of it yet, but it's sort of a challenge based one. And in today's video, I am reading 11 first volumes of a manga series to see whether or not I will continue it. I actually thought it was 10, but it ended up being 11. I don't know how, because the intention was for it to be 10 volumes. I have another video of the same exact concept with other volumes that I'm filming at the minute, but this one I forgot to do an intro for, so I won't be delving into anything that like the volumes are about. I will just be showing you what I am going to be reading in this video, and then you'll see the in-depth opinions, what I think on them. So we have Assassin's Creed Blade of Shao Volume 1 by Minoji Kurata. We have Assassin's Creed Dynasty, or Dynasty, depending on how you want to pronounce it. I say Dynasty. Volume 1 by Shu Zhanji and Zhang Zhao. I will probably have mispronounced them, but I did try. Volume 1 of Solo Leveling by Chugging. Volume 1 of Life of Kill by Fei, or Fei, I don't know how that's pronounced, it's just F-E. I Hear The Sunspot, Volume 1 by Yuki Fumino. Daytime Shooting Star, Volume 1 by Mika Yamamori. Orange, the first volume, I know this is the omnibus version, but the first volume, which I took out. Did I? No, I didn't. I thought I took out the... So it's just this much of it that I've read. First volume of Orange by Ichigo Takano. Volume 1 of the Apothecary Diaries by Natsu Hyuga. Blue Exorcist, Volume 1 by Kato. Komi Can't Communicate, Volume 1 by Tomohito Oda. And Final Fantasy Lost Stranger Volume 1 by Hazuki Minase. That is all 11 volumes that I will be going through in this video, all of which are spoiled. It'll be my full, there's no spoiler free section of this video. It is all just my opinions after reading all of the volumes. Yeah, this is probably my fastest intro that I've ever done for a video. So the first book that I read was Final Fantasy Lost Stranger Volume 1. We follow Shogo and his sister Yuko, who are Square Enix employees who work on the Final Fantasy games. They end up being thrown into a Final Fantasy type of game world I should have written, because it's not an actual game itself, after a car accident, and we are introduced to Shirara, who is a white mage, and Ray and Dustin, who I forgot to write down. Ray is a warrior and Dustin is a black mage. This is one thing I do like in the book, where when you're introduced to a new character, they give like their names and their job description, I think. Something like that. And they're all in their own team. They take the siblings in and end up taking their first mission together to save a little girl from a dragon. We end up learning that Shogo seems to possess the ability of Libra, which in most Final Fantasy games is basically a skill where you can see an enemy's weaknesses and strengths to figure out like how you can beat them quicker, more or less. Although his seems to be primarily being able to see the ingredients of food and the functions of items, also seeing his surroundings in more depth to use to his advantage, which is very interesting. I like that. Unfortunately, about halfway through the story, Yuko is actually killed, and I just kicked my tripod again by the dragon. And Shogo asks Shura, which she's a white mage, she can like cure people. She's basically the medic of the team. Asks Shura to use Raise or Phoenix Down. I've never used Raise. I don't know if I've ever played with that skill. I haven't played every Final Fantasy game, so probably not. But I do know Phoenix Down. If your character's teammate has extremely low health, but they're still able to fight, you can cast a potion on them, which will bring their HP up. If your teammate has lost all of their HP completely. They're not actually dead. They have no HP that you can see. They have no energy to fight. They can't fight at all. They are completely out of the fight. But if you cast Phoenix Down, their HP will be brought back up and they can fight again. That's what Phoenix Down is. I'm assuming a raise is for if a character is literally dead or at death's door or something, then you can actually bring them back. Asks her to bring Yuko back using them, something that would typically be done in the games, only to find out they exist only in fairy tales in this world. If you die in the Final Fantasy world, you're dead for good, which is similar to Sword Art Online, except for the fact that it's not an actual game. It's a world that's based on the game, but it's not the actual game. Along with the fact we don't actually know what's happening in their real world in Japan, which is where they're from. So we don't know if they're like they're actually dead, or if they've been hospitalized, or if their physical bodies were literally transported to an alternate reality. We don't know that yet. Once he tells them about his ability, the description wise is very similar to that of Libra, another skill that they assumed was in fairy tales. They decide to search for the possibility of finding the skill Raise to bring Yuko back to life. I really like it. I love the characters. They bounce off of each other really well, and their humor's not like something fantastical or whatever, but I like it. It's quite fun. And I like the fact that Shogo is Square Enix employees, both of them, the siblings, and he primarily worked on designs and making game guides. So he has a lot of information on the actual games themselves. He knows about chocobos, he knows about, like, well, everyone knows about chocobos, they're adorable. But, like, he would know the items and the skills and all the weapons and things like that, and how they're supposed to be used, how to defeat certain enemies. Like, he would know them things because he's made guides on them. This is a world based on Final Fantasy, but it's not actually Final Fantasy. So there's a lot of things where he's like, I recognize that, that's this thing, isn't it? And then, like, one of the other characters he's with will be like, no, that's this. So it's the same thing he's familiar with, but they have different names, or their functions are changed slightly from what he's used to in the games, which I think is really interesting. Did not expect Yuko to die. Definitely didn't expect her to die in the first fucking volume. Like, where is she? Like, that far into it, she dies. And she's meant to be a main character. But once she dies, in this Final Fantasy world, like, crystals are a very well-known thing in the Final Fantasy games. They're used for a multitude of different reasons. Some will have magical abilities, some will contain missions. In Final Fantasy 13, I know a lot of people don't like Final Fantasy 13. I don't care. I love it. Leave me alone. Crystals represent their eidolons, their guardians basically, that they can summon and fight with them. It also is what happens when a l'Cie completes their focus. They turn into crystal. They're not dead, they become crystal. In this story, a crystal, or a soul crystal, I think is what it's called. When someone dies, they turn into a soul crystal. Their soul is basically taken out of their body and it turns into a crystal that you can either, seems to be usually put in the casket when they're buried, or you can make it into like a piece of jewellery and carry it with you, which is what they do for Shogo, is that they turn it into, or Shura turns it into a necklace basically and gives it to him so he can have it with him the whole time. But I like that. I also love the idea of Libra being a skill that only like a one person has. Because, like, I've only known Libra in the Final Fantasy 13 game, and 13 too. So I know its function. It's not easy to come by in game. I think you can buy it from Chocobocolina. And I'm pretty sure you can buy it from her, but I think it might be expensive. Point is, it's not really an easy to find skill, but every character can find it. And I like the fact that he's the only one that seems to have that ability. I just find it really interesting. I also think it's really funny. The best thing he seems to be good at with Libra is seeing food ingredients. And I just think it's random. But I like it. But like if he literally looks deeper into the ingredients, it'll also show a function of like, this drink will help your accuracy with archery. This fish will help with your concentration. This will help with willpower. This will help with physical strength. This will help you get sleep. Like that kind of thing. if he looks deeper into it, if he has more practice with the ability. I really like Final Fantasy Lost Stranger. I do think I will definitely continue this series. I already have the first 3. It was very fun. I love the characters. I think his ability of using Libra and being the only one who can use Libra is very interesting and makes him more unique to him. The next one might be a bit of an unpopular opinion. The next one was Love of Kill, which I have 2 volumes of. I just read the first volume. I didn't end up finishing it, which is why I'm saying it might be an unpopular opinion, because I do know that quite a few people have liked the series so far. Didn't end up finishing it at all because I got bored and creeped out at the same time. From what I got of it, this dude, Ryangha, is an assassin who runs into a fellow assassin, Chateau, on one of their, I guess, synced missions, where they had a mission and they ended up being in the same place at the same time. He tries hitting on her by disarming her and questioning her like she's being apprehended or something, with a massive smile on his face, and she's just very confused. It time skips or goes back to a flashback quite frequently, even though it's only the beginning of the story, and it honestly took me out of it, even if it was only the start of the story. He, in a way to seduce her, starts taking out her targets for her, which personally would annoy the shit out of me to continue reading. She also has a job, you shouldn't be taking that from her. And his whole personality is just kind of creepy. I don't like it, and she barely talks, and I find it frustrating. Overall, I DNF'd it. If you don't know what DNF means, it means I did not finish the volume. It's not a massive volume. It felt like I was reading this kind of size of a volume. It took forever to try and get through, and I ended up just not finishing it. I was really bored. I was uncomfortable with specifically the guy's personality. Like, his whole thing is just taking her missions from her, taking her clients from her in order to like get her attention or something, and I don't like that. Don't mess with my job. That is my job. Fuck off, please. It was also creepy. Did not help the fact that he smiles the entire time, and that just creeps me out a bit. She doesn't really talk all that much. She probably talked more throughout the rest of the volume, but she barely said anything, and that annoyed me a bit. I don't know why, it just annoyed me that she didn't really talk all that much, and he just wouldn't shut the fuck up. They feel a bit one-dimensional to me, like they have a bit of a stereotype maybe, where he's just, I keep kicking the fucking tripod, I'm sorry, where he's just a guy that's obsessed with a girl, maybe a bit of a yandere. I do not like yanderes. I will skip that to my heart's content. And then she's just like the brooding badass girl who doesn't seem to be much of a badass, since she's just letting him do her job for her. I don't know, I didn't like it. It might develop a bit more later on, but I just didn't like it. So I know a lot of people have been liking that series, but unfortunately I will not be continuing Love of Kill. The next volume that I read, which is on the same level for me of enjoyment, which is Assassin's Creed Dynasty, or Dynasty, whatever one you want to call it. I loved that as well. I love Assassin's Creed itself. I love the lore. Clearly I love the lore a lot more than Ubisoft does, because they have just retconned it constantly, and it's really fucking annoying. We are introduced to our assassin, Lai, which is a very interesting name. L-I gap E. Like, his name is spelt Lai, but I think it's pronounced Lai because they're separated. The only remaining assassin of his brotherhood in China at the time. They had all been executed, I'm assuming, from the implication at the beginning of the story, by the emperor at the time, as he grew concerned with them basically taking revenge on the powerful on behalf of the powerless. We follow Lai as he assassinated quite a few people during the Festival of Flowers, which is basically a flower viewing and competitions for like wealthy people. At first we aren't told outright why Lai is killing them. All we know at first is these people stole the peony flowers from the flower farmers of Chugging, which apparently is a real group of people that existed. Just a community of people who loved and sold flowers, specifically these peonies. Later though, we find out that he's actually enacting revenge for the 15 farmers' lives that were taken in order to steal these flowers. On the other end, we're also introduced to our villain, I think, An Lucien, who is a general who protects and fights on the border of Chang'an. Seems to be very arrogant and has a lot of demands. Lai and An Lucien haven't actually met each other yet, but they likely will soon. I think I will continue the series though. I like Lai. I like the way I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. He's very assassin-like, which is perfect because it's Assassin's Creed. He doesn't give off a vibe of arrogance. He also doesn't talk a whole lot, but I don't hate it. He kind of gives off a mixed vibe of Altair and Ezio in a weird way. Not completely, he's still his own person, but I get the vibes from both of them. I also really think the political aspect of the story is interesting. Also, Lai is super cute, honestly. He's so cute. Look at that face. He's so cute. Oh my god. Oh my god. But I read Assassin's Creed Blade of Shao. Names I'll probably not remember right now, so sorry about that. We're introduced immediately to Shao, who is our protagonist. She is the last assassin in China in the 1500s. We see her get we don't see her get captured. She just already is captured. She's just there's a cage and she's in it. The bad guys are these guys called the 8 Tigers, who are eunuchs. I forget what that even means, but I think they're like priests or something. Are revealed to be the Templars, who have assassinated the Assassins Brotherhood in China. Everyone's dead except for like a couple that are like allies to the assassins, but not really assassins. She intentionally let herself get caught so that she could kill one of the 8 tigers who had captured her, because they stole the precursor box that Ezio Auditore da Firenze had given her during Ezio's like send-off of him being old and dying as an old man. The woman he meets in that, the assassin, is Shao, and we do see Ezio in the story. We do see a little bit of snippet of him. It's very, 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 very short, but it's worth it. So she kills him because he won't tell her where the box is. She was going to kill him anyways because he's a Templar. Kills guards, she gets out. She does a leap of faith out the window, and then this is the first story so far of the Assassin's Creed books, other than the main stories of like Altair and Ezio and all those. But this is the first manga that I've seen where we follow Shao, but we also follow Lisa Huang, who is the present time counterpart. She is the descendant of Shao, and she uses the animus to view Shao memories. This, as far as I'm aware, doesn't happen in Dynasty. We just follow the past tense. We only follow his story, I'm nearly sure. Could be wrong in the next few volumes, I've only read the first one. And I quite like that, but we're introduced to Lisa, who is the present time counterpart that we follow. And she is a like troubled person. I don't know how old she is. I would say maybe 18 or something. We are introduced to her because she wakes up in the animus. She like gets scared viewing the memory of Shao jumping out the window because it feels so real. She thinks she's gonna die because she doesn't know how to land that. So she wakes herself up basically, I think. That's what it looks like to me. She wakes up, we are introduced to Dr. Kagami, and she explains that Lisa is a descendant of Shao, and that is why Lisa has violent outbursts, is because it runs through her veins from her ancestor who's an assassin. I feel like that's such a lazy way for Templars to trick someone from the assassin bloodline into doing what they want. They're way more clever than that. I think that's a bit of a cop-out in my opinion, because they can be a lot smarter. So that's how they trick Lisa, because Kagami is a Templar in the present timeline, which I think was revealed too quickly. I think they could have drawn that out and had it been more of a betrayal kind of thing. But Lisa thinks this is therapy. She thinks it's therapy to get a handle of her anger issues. So that is how they're also tricking her into doing this, in order to relive Shao memories, to find the precursor treasure thing, the box that Ichigo gave her. So then we go back into our memories and we see Shaojin as a 5-year-old who is forced to watch the death sentence, a slow death sentence of being ripped apart as a 5-year-old because the guy like went up against the emperor or something, or he's accused of something, I forget, because he's revealed to be an 8 tiger. Like one of the 8 tigers. So I don't know why he was actually assassinated or killed, but it was a public killing and he was ripped apart. 3,000 pieces of him was ripped apart. That's fucked up as a 5-year-old to watch that. But then Lisa gets shocked out of the animus again because it felt so real and it made her throw up. But she goes back in, we see more memories of Shaojin talking to her mentor. Then in present time, we are also not really introduced because we don't get any names, but we are introduced to people, like visually. One person who seems to be a friend of Lisa's, who came to her work, I'm assuming, and she wasn't there, so she's like, okay, I'll check back at some other point. And then we're also introduced to a guy sitting in a car who says he's found the Abstergo location a while ago and saying that it's worrisome in regards to Shaojin because he knows that she's stuck in there, and that if it keeps going, then they're gonna break her as in break Lisa, not Shaojin. They're gonna break Lisa because if she stays in the animus for too long, it will mentally break her. And then we go back into Shaojin's memories, and she is going after another member of the 8 tigers. She ends up finding the assassin's ally, or I think he actually is an assassin, maybe, who has been tortured because he was the one who gave information to their mentor about where this member of the 8 tigers is. So he got tortured for information, he ends up dying from it. We end up also meeting his son, and they also have a lot of people captured there because he's dubbed the slave trader, a good few of them being assassins. Whenever she finds and kills that member of the 8 tigers, his leader, the 8 tigers' leader, tells everyone to set the whole ship on fire. From my assumption is that the captured people, the slave victims, were still on the ship. I don't think they got off of the ship on time while it's set ablaze. So my assumption is that last frame in that volume is everyone just got murdered and burned alive, including the little boy, which is fucked up. But that's the end of that volume. That's everything that really happens briefly. I skipped quite a few things because I'm trying to rush through it. I liked it. I like Shaojin. I enjoy her person. I don't know how else to explain it because I don't know her that well yet. It's still only the first volume, but I enjoy watching her go through things. I feel bad for Lisa. She's being used and taken advantage of because she wants to fix her anger issues, but she's being tricked into thinking that this will help her. She doesn't know that the Templars are the ones holding her. She was also lied to, which is no surprise. Kagami is a Templar, and she told Lisa that the assassins were the bad guys, they're only out for chaos, and that the Templars are the ones that are holding up the peace and stability. While she tricks and manipulates like an 18-year-old, so much to the point that she doesn't care if she breaks her psyche in order to get information. But yeah, they're the ones holding peace together. Or Kagami? Is it Kagami or Kagami? I think it might be Kagami. Dr. Kagami. I think she's revealed as a Templar too quickly. It's been a while since I've updated this video. I have read the first volume of Daytime Shooting Star, where we basically follow this girl called Suzume Yasano, where she's 15 and she has to move to Tokyo with her uncle out of fucking nowhere because I'm assuming both of her parents are just her father and his new wife or something. I don't know if they're both her biological parents, but one of them at least is, because they're planning to move away or for something for his work, and she still has to go to school, so they're like, you can go live with your uncle that you barely know in Tokyo because we can't be bothered to be good parents and just wait it out, or at least let you know before it actually happens. And she has to move to this new school in Tokyo, make new friends, where we meet. This is part of why I really didn't want to read this. We meet this guy who is friends with her uncle and is also her homeroom teacher. This guy up here, Shishio. We also meet this guy who I also forget his Mamura is this guy who seems to either not like girls in general, or he has some sort of fear or uncomfortableness with being touched that she decides to try and become friends with because Mr. Shishio encourages her to just be the first one to ask to be friends. And we also meet Nekora, who is the bitch character, who plays up the sweet, cute girl facade, but she's actually a complete bitch. But she likes Mamura, and she doesn't like the fact that Yosano has become friends with Mamura. So she tricks her and says like, oh, the whole class can go out bowling for the night, and sends Yosano to the wrong location where Mr. Shishio finds her and rings one of the other students to ask them where they're actually at, and then takes her to the bowling alley for to figure out what's actually happening, where it's revealed that Nekora is actually an asshole and had only asked her to come either to just play a prank on her and outcast her from the rest of the class, or to make sure that Mamura had gone and that she wasn't able to get there, so there would be nothing in between them to stop her from going after her crush. The template, I don't mind. I don't mind the new girl. I don't mind there being... I'm assuming that Nekora is going to get some sort of development over the story. I don't mind the whole cute girl facade, because that's very typical in anime, to be honest, or in manga, to be honest. I actually quite like the quiet guy who seems to be genuinely awkward or uncomfortable or scared of touching, or just girls in general, because you can still make some sort of nice... Because their relationship, Yosana and Mamura, even just in the first volume, I actually like their vibe with each other. Mr. Shishio, I like him on his own. I don't like him in this. I don't like because he's the one who shows up the most often in this, so it's so obvious that he's an option as a love interest, and I do not like that because he is her teacher. He's 24 and she's 15. Please no. I would have much preferred it if he was like her confidant, like a friend who just happens to also be her teacher, so it's easier for her to actually talk to him more frequently if she's having troubles with friends or subjects or something like that. There are instances in this where it's kind of flirtatious, where she's clearly getting a crush on him a little bit, and he is surprised when she wears makeup for the first time in school. I don't like that. I don't think, purely because of the teacher-student, even the possibility, I don't think that's the end goal of what happens in this story, but even the fact that it's like an option of a love interest with the teacher, I don't like. So I'm not going to continue reading this purely for that reason. But I do like how Yosano and Mamura so far interact with each other. It's actually kind of cute. I don't like the fact that Yosano doesn't stand up to Nekora properly. Like, she just lets her be friends with her because she knows that Nekora likes Mamura, and Nekora decides to only be friends with Yosano to try and get to Mamura. Again, like I said, I'm assuming there's some sort of development with her, but I don't like the fact that she just lets it happen. Like, she doesn't even say, no, I refuse to be friends with you, to be used so you can go after another guy, regardless of whether or not Yosano likes Mamura. I don't like that she's letting that happen just to be friends with someone, because I don't hate Yosano. There's not really much to her in this yet, other than she's a bit of a pushover. So yeah, that's my thoughts overall with this volume, to be honest. Yeah, I'm not continuing Daytime Shooting Star just because of the teacher-student romance. I'm not okay with it at all. It's very creepy. Okay, I'm a bit annoyed with myself because I just read I Hear The Sunspot. Like, it's a short one. I think this is because I always have difficulty reading modern set stories in, like, today's day. I don't have a problem with, well, I can't really have an opinion on it anyways, with the representation of having a hearing disability. I don't have a problem with the relationship development between the two characters of Taichi and Kohei. I also forgot to say what the plot was. Taichi is they're both college students, but he's a college student looking for a job, but he can't get one because the last one he was in, he ended up fighting a customer who refused to pay and got aggressive, I think. I know he refused to pay, I can't remember if he got aggressive or not. So he can't get it, he's struggling to get a job because of that. And he ends up running into Kohi, who randomly gives him his food because he notices how much Taichi like really thinks it looks really, really good. But he himself doesn't know why he gave Taichi his food. But he walks away. Taichi doesn't realise that he's deaf because he just doesn't reply. But he finds him again and gives him back his box, offers to be his note taker because Kohi is looking for a note taker. And he offers to be a note taker, and then Kohi is like, if you be my note taker, I will get you food, kind of thing. That's their exchange. It becomes more of Taichi. Yes, he would like some money, that's the point. But he does actually want to be friends with Kohi, but Kohi is assuming that he's only in it to get food. So he's having that difficulty. He's also very antisocial. Most people don't actually slow down their words. They don't actually take the time to be patient with him. They don't try and see things from his perspective, and Taichi's actually very sweet about it. But, and again, this is what I mean by I struggle a lot with modern day stories. I find it kind of boring, and I don't like that I find it boring. I have not the full set, I don't have 4 seasons, but I have all 3 limit books, Theory of Happiness and this. I have them all in my shelf, and I was really hoping that I liked this, because I do want more books with more than just the typical heterosexual story. Because I'm not against queer representation in books, it's mostly the plot that puts me off, or horrible representation of like gay or bisexual people, pansexual, asexual, you know. But the plot itself, it's cute, but it's really boring. And like, I still am only on volume 3 of A Sign of Affection, which also deals with a character who's hard of hearing, uses sign language, and with a character who, I haven't read it in so long that I don't fully remember the plot. I'm nearly sure I think it's because he travels a lot, and he offers to like take pictures and stuff, or get her a gift every time he travels or something, if she teaches him sign language. Very cute, and I don't know why I find that one very cute and engaging, but this one really boring. And I know people are probably going to assume that that's because that's a heterosexual relationship, and this is not. That's not the reason. I genuinely don't know why this feels like it's dragging. It's not pulling me towards anything, and that's really disappointed me, because I really want to like this, but I'm not going to force myself to continue reading a series that I know I'm not enjoying. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be continuing I Hear The Sunspot, and I wish I did. I feel like that's going to be a habit as well with modern day stories that I decide to try out. Back in high spirits, I just read The Apothecary Diaries, which I've been wanting to read for a while now. I will be continuing this. I do have volume 2 downstairs. We follow I don't know if it would be considered a handmaiden or just a maid, like a servant, in a palace, in the inner palace specifically, because she was kidnapped by people, put into the pleasure district, so she was forced to work as a sex slave. There's no indication yet if she was actually forced to have sex. I don't know yet, but we do know that she did work in the pleasure district, and now she was, I think, if I'm misreading that, then I'll figure it out again later in a different volume, but I think she was then sold to someone in the palace, and now she works as a lily maid, Mao, but she's actually a really skilled herbalist. She's an apothecary, but she can't show that. She also knows how to read. One of the things that is very specific is that maids, typically because they're so low in status, don't know how to read. They're mostly illiterate, if not all illiterate, and she's not. She's also not pretty. She's really cute, but she's not what like an emperor or a prince would typically go for. She's a flat chest. She's also 17. She's gonna look like a kid because she is a kid, which I'm really hoping, I think I know who the love interest is gonna be. I'm really hoping he's not that old, because age differences, while in this timeline of China, I think it is, going based on the names, I know in Asia the age differences wasn't a big thing. It wasn't looked down upon or something like that. What I'm trying to say is I'm really hoping that the love interest isn't too far from her age, because the farther he is from her age, the creepier it gets for me, even though I have to take it with a grain of salt because of the time period it takes place in. Not a big fan of age differences she's a trained apothecary. She knows how to make herbal stuff. She knows how to make medicines. And there's a rumor going around that there's a curse in the palace to do with the heirs, the emperor's children, because they keep dying. And there's 2 recent children who've been born, a princess and a prince, both from different consorts. Yokuyo, I don't know if I'm saying her name right or not. Yokuyo is the favoured consort for the emperor, and Lihua is like the second one, I'm assuming. But they have 2 different personalities. They both were having children for the emperor, but the prince, who was Lihua's child, ended up passing away. But before that, Mal had figured out what the problem was, but she's the only one who knows all the herbal stuff. She's the one who works in medicine in the maids, so she knows what's wrong, but she can't out herself, because then that would be, 1, giving herself too much attention, and also she's a maid. Their opinions don't really be taken that seriously. So she left a secret note in both of their rooms to tell them not to use the face powder because it was poisonous. Don't let it get anywhere near the baby. I'm gonna call her Kuyo because I struggle to say her full name. She did listen to the warning. She stopped using the facial powder. I'm assuming Lihua didn't, because the prince did end up dying and the princess ended up surviving. Jinshi, who I have not figured out entirely what he is, like what his status is. He's very high status, but I don't know what his like title is, like a captain or something like that. I don't fucking know. But they keep saying he's a eunuch. I don't think he's a eunuch. And his aide, I also don't think is a eunuch. And that's pointed out in the story that they don't behave, well, Jinshi does, but specifically his aide doesn't behave like a regular eunuch usually does. So I don't think they're actually eunuchs. I think they're playing a part. Jinshi does work for the emperor to some degree, and he, I think, has to keep an eye on the inner court and the consorts and stuff like that. But he works very closely with Kuyo, and he ends up figuring out who gave her the warning that it's Mao, brings her to Kuyo, and she ends up now working for them as a food tester because she works as an apothecary, or she did work as an apothecary. She taught herself how to be an apothecary. She's also developed a high immunity to poisons. So being a food tester is not great because sometimes it wouldn't work on her. But you know, it gets the job done, and she can tell by smells and feeling whether or not it's poison too. She's being taken more seriously when it comes to that as well. I can tell that Jinshi is gonna be the love interest, but I don't know how old he is, but she's 17. But I think this is sort of like a mystery solving story with her also being an herbalist, and I'm assuming eventually there being some sort of love interest. I don't think it's necessary to have love interests, but I'm assuming that Jinshi does become one. I do love her little spunky personality though. I wish she would bite back like verbally to Jinshi though, because he's not being annoying to me. But it's more of like her monologues you can see where she's like, does he get any time? Like, how much time does he actually have? Why does he keep staring at me like that? I wish she would say that out loud, because then that would actually make the scene a lot funnier to me. I still find it quite funny. There's one scene where he figures out the person who left the note, and everyone has been summoned, and he holds up a piece of paper that says, "The one with the freckles, remain here," because they're supposed to be illiterate, which also includes not being able to write. She read it, she knew what it said, and she ended up not necessarily intentionally waiting, because she only just realized and watched everyone walk away, and then he came up to her and was like, "There you are." But I do like it. It's only the first volume, but I am enjoying it, I am interested, and I am going to continue it. So we're back on good terms with a volume that I do like. So I have 4 more left to go through for this video. I love Mao's personality, and I do hope we get to have, because at the minute Jinshi and her, they're not rivals, they're not enemies, they don't know each other well enough yet to develop an actual friendship, and I want to see that friendship develop before, if it ever becomes a love interest. I want it to develop as a friendship first and figure out how fucking old he is. Because I don't want to look it up. Part of me really wants to. Because it's bothering me now. Okay, he's 19. It is revealed in the story he's 19. Okay, it's not that bad. I know. Legally, it's weird in today's age. But I was expecting him to be like 27. And I'm like, absolutely not. He's 19. It is not that bad. Thank fuck for that. He's only like 2 years older than her. 2-3 years older than her. Not that bad. Compared to other love interests where there's like 10-year age gaps with like a 16-year-old and a, I don't fucking know, 26-year-old, that's weird. I will take what I can get. This one's actually a DNF, not because I wasn't enjoying it. Basically, this story follows Jinwoo Sung. In this world, random gates showed up, and then people called hunters showed up, which is people with certain abilities, and Jinwoo is one of them, but he's the weakest. He's the lowest rank and the lowest ability. Constantly gets injured in raids, but he can't not go because he has to get the money for his mum's medical bills. And I'm assuming also to let his sister go to university. So even though he constantly gets injured and there's a constant possibility that he's gonna die, he has to go to earn the money. I'm assuming in this full thing, since I got about midway through, or just before the midway point. So I'm assuming this whole thing takes place in the one raid that starts the story. It's kind of like Sword Art Online, but they're not online, like it is a real thing. But I had to stop because they enter a raid and there's rules with the beasts that they have to fight. It's actually a lot higher rank than they were told it was going to be. So a whole load of people die right off the bat. And Jinwoo figures out the rules, which is basically it's these giant statue monsters that come to life. And he figures out, because there's a tablet, not like a Kindle or something, like an actual stone tablet with commandments on them, talking about like thou shalt obey God or something like that. And there's 3 of them. He figures out you have to obey them in order to survive. And once he figures that out and they all bow to the biggest statue who has this big fire beam that can come out of her eyes, the statue's face changes, and this is where I am DNFing it, because if this genuinely freaked me out, then I'm just gonna get freaked out even more in something else in this story, unfortunately. I think the story itself is so interesting, and it also confuses me because I watch the Attack on Titan. I know you'll know what I mean when I explain it, but like I watch Attack on Titan. I enjoy Attack on Titan. Last season, not so sure. I haven't actually finished the last season, but so far I'm not enjoying it. But the statue's face changes to this giant grin, and it's so freaky that I had to close the book because I have a fear of like clowns. I have a fear of those types of faces with the big grins and just the dead eyes or even the white eyes. It really freaks me out, and it took me forever to actually be okay with the Attack on Titan grins because it was creepy, but something about it wasn't as unsettling, and I think it was because you can see their faces. Like there's usually some sort of light, either it's a torch or it's daytime or something. It is very dark in the room that this is happening in. The eyes are red and it's a massive grin. It is so creepy. I'm so sorry. If you want to read it, go read it. I can't, simply because of that. It really freaked me out, even though I really want to read it. Oh god, I need to read something else now because that's going to give me nightmares if I think about it too much. So I apologise. It's probably a really great story, but I can't get past the grinning face. Yeah. DNF, but not because I'm not enjoying it, it's because I got freaked out. Which is so annoying because you miss out on so many good stories when you can't get past the creepy faces. I think you're just gonna have to ignore my TV's on because it covers up my voice a bit more. As you can maybe tell, I was crying. I read the first volume. I only went here because it's an omnibus, so there's 3 volumes technically in this. I only read the first. I cried like 3 times in the first volume. Basically, this follows a high school girl called Naho who gets a letter from her future self telling her specific things that happened and what she wants to change because she has a lot of regrets in her life, and that one of the people in the friend group isn't there 10 years later in the future, and she wants her past self to do things differently so that she can try and change the future so that that person is still there. I'm only realizing this is starting to curve and I don't like that, but oh well. It is very sad. I'm not gonna spoil myself. I'm pretty sure I did look up how the ending happens, but I don't remember what happens. But it goes between present time and the future of what they're doing. Every time it went to the future, I started crying.
Also, my period's about to start, so that might be why I'm also getting emotional, but this kind of thing, I'm not going to spoil anything, but this kind of thing I do get really emotional about. It is in the first volume that it's told what happens to the 6th character, but I am going to continue this. I do want to read it. I do have all of them. I have collection 1, collection 2, and the 2 other ones. I think it's Future and Dear something. Oh my god, I was not prepared for that. Because it's really cute, it's really sweet, and heartbreaking at the same time. The topic as well is quite personal for me as well. That hits hard too. The moment that it's realised, if you've read it, you know what part I mean. Or if you plan to read it and you get to that point, you'll know what I mean. The part where it's realised broke my fucking heart, and I bawled my eyes out crying. Like, I'm technically, I know it's an omnibus. This is the first volume, and I am in tears. How the fuck am I gonna manage for the rest of it? But yes, I will be continuing Orange. Also, I wonder why it's called Orange. I don't know why it's called Orange. I might actually look that up, because sometimes stories get names and it has nothing to do with the actual story itself. So I am gonna look that up. Oh, because the passage, letter 3, page 44, when Kakeru bought an orange juice to Naho and the taste perfectly describes Naho's feelings. Ah, okay. Oh, that's so cute. Because he buys her a juice box and it's orange juice. Oh, that's cute. Look up the trigger warnings if you can't read things like that. I knew that the subject matter was going to come up. I did look at the trigger warnings myself. But oh my god, I did not expect to cry that early in the story. I'm also a very ugly crier, so fun times. I'm aware it's quite dark at the minute, but I kind of have to rush through this because other people are here right now and I'm downstairs. So I read Blue Exorcist. I did write these down because my boyfriend was here when I was reading them. So I wrote down a summary and my basic opinion of them on my phone, so I'll read that out. We follow Rin Okumura, who's been raised by exorcists with his fraternal twin Yukio. Rin constantly gets into fights, but one day he discovers that demons are a very real thing, and so are exorcists. And simultaneously finds out that he's the illegitimate child of Satan himself, but he alone got the abilities. His father figure, Fujimito, an exorcist, tells him he needs to run away and hide from Satan, but Ren says something rude which hurts his feelings, and Fujimito is the only person Satan can possess, so hurting his feelings basically made him have a weakness for Satan to possess him, causes Satan to be able to possess him, to kidnap Ren, because he was born in the mortal world. Ren's Satan's access to control it. But Ren opens the sword he was just given and told not to open it because if he did then he would no longer be human. And he opens the sword to protect Fujimoto, but in doing so the man dies regardless and Ren is no longer a full human. He contacts the man Fujimoto had entrusted Ren to, which happens to be another exorcist, and he wishes to join their order, but is taken to an exorcist academy to study where he finds out his brother is a teacher exorcist. Ren wishes to get stronger to protect others and get back at Satan. He makes friends along the way, learns about his powers, and works together with his brother. I do think it's a very interesting concept, and I quite like Yukio and Ren's characters and the fact that their personalities are quite different. Like Ren's more brash and reckless, and Yukio is a bit more serious, but still has a bit of a lightness to him, and I will be continuing this series. The art style sometimes isn't really for me, but it's not too bad. Not a whole lot happens to get you a full concept of the characters' personalities in the first volume, for me at least, but I am interested in the direction of the story overall. I like the comedy sections as well, but the beginning did feel a bit rushed. It felt a bit rushed to get into the Satan story. Like, I think this first volume should have ended when he finds out he's Satan's child and tries to save Fujimoto. I think that first section of him going to the academy and meeting Shamie and stuff, I think that should have been in the second volume. That's just a personal opinion for me. It felt a little bit rushed at the beginning to get into the you're a demon child kind of aspect of the story, but it's still interesting and I do plan to continue it. So I also read Komi Can Communicate, which I've been wanting to read for a while, and I had read like 4 pages and then stopped. I don't remember why I stopped, but it wasn't because I wasn't enjoying it, I just didn't get back to it. But I finally read it. We follow a girl called Komi, who has such severe anxiety it is physically very difficult for her to talk to others. New student, I think, Todano, who's a typically quieter kid and normal, seems to be the only one to notice that Komi's silence and standoffish persona is a result of difficulty of social situations and not from confidence in herself, and decides to ask her about it when they're alone. She talks to him through writing on the chalkboard or paper, and he asks her what her dream is, to which she says to make 100 friends, and he suggests that he could be her first friend, which she gets really excited about. From there on, he works to get her some more friends and help her communicate better with people. Quite liked it, to be honest, and will continue the series. I don't think this type of story necessarily needs 15 plus volumes though, but I'll see how I feel when I get to that point. I relate to Komi and Agari personally when it comes to social anxiety, maybe not to the same extent or the ways that they experience it, but it's definitely a story I think I'll find a lot of comfort in. I do enjoy the art style and it's really cute. I do find everyone's obsession with Komi to be a bit weird though, I will say that, because they all see her as like the queen of the school. You're not allowed to talk to her, you're not even allowed to insult her, you're not allowed to look at her, kind of thing, which makes her anxiety even worse, and everyone kind of just ignores that could put a lot of pressure under someone when you haven't even tried to get to know them properly. Najimi Osana, which, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that might be the same name as the girl from Yandere Simulator. I don't know which one came out first, but Osana is definitely in the name, and that felt very weird to me just because of the connection with those names. But Osana's character seems to be either transgender or gender fluid, cross-dresser, something in there, which I do like. I have nothing against that. I'm just not sure, based on the first volume, I'm not entirely sure where the author plans to go with that, because Tadano, I forget his name, Tadano, he was friends with Osana in school at some point, but Osana was a boy when they met. So now Osana's a girl and he's a bit confused. And then in a different scene, Osana's approached by a delinquent to get together. And Osana's like, no, I'm actually a boy, which could have been just to get them off their back. I just don't know where they're planning to go in the direction with that character, but I have nothing against it. Agari, the anxiety part I understand, but the whole I am your dog behaviour is weird. I do find that very weird. I don't even find it funny, I just find it really weird. But I like Komi, and I like Tadano, so I am going to continue the series and I'm curious about it. Genuinely though, this type of series with the plot, I don't necessarily think it needs more than 20 volumes. I would say maybe 15 at most, but there's a lot of volumes on this, so when I get to that point, if it gets to a point where I feel like the plot has finished, I'll just finish reading it. I won't continue it from there.